Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:04 p.m. Central. You're listening to United Public Radio. We got Wham here with us tonight. Good to have you here, Wham. And Ricardo Delgado.
Hey, everybody.
We're going to get into his comics career. And the Dracula stuff, first off, is amazing. If you check out cloverpress.us, he's got a modern retelling of an ancient classic, Dracula of Transylvania. And John Landis blurb on this thing. Let me read that. Ricardo Delgado does for vampires what he's done for dinosaurs. His elegant and bloody take on Stoker's classic tale is refreshingly original and scary. And then we got Mike Magnolia. Ricardo Delgado's reimagining of Dracula is strange and bold and brilliantly original. I love it and would be stunned by it if it wasn't I love it and would be stunned by it if it wasn't coming from Ricardo, but brilliant is pretty much what I've come to expect from him. Still, he may have surpassed his usual brilliance here. And then we got the Art of Dracula of Transylvania art book. And then the most recent, the Dracula of Transylvania Tarot. So really cool. That's a lot of hard work that's really manifested. The art is beautiful and well put together. And that's cloverpress.us. But one thing I wanted to ask you first is, as I was looking through some of the things you've done, I wasn't familiar with Age of Reptiles. So I looked it up. And I collect comics, and I'm trying to get a hold of an addiction. They're so addictive. It's like I used to, when I was younger, after my dad died, he told me if I ever did drugs, he'd shoot me. When he died, I experimented and did drugs for a few years, and I was an addict. I'm not anymore, except for weed, and that's pretty good for me. But now it's like comics have become a thing I'm trying to control. There's just so many. Like, you want to read a Spider-Man, it's like there's like 40 of them.
I would agree with that. I mean, I grew up with comics. I grew up in a small town in Southern California, just outside of Los Angeles, and my parents gave me $1 a week for whatever I wanted as an allowance, And back then the comics were 20 cents each, right? So you could get 5 comics a week, or you could get 4 in a candy bar, right? And so, but if you saved up 7 extra cents, which was still a little bit of money back then, you could get 5 comics plus tax, right? $1.07. And so, what I did is I was very careful about which comics I could get or which ones I couldn't. And I kind of combined. I love stuff like The Amazing Spider-Man, but I also love Tomb of Dracula. I'm wearing a Tomb of Dracula t-shirt right now. That's kind of my that was my jam. Tomb of Dracula, and then Werewolf by Night, which I'm sure everybody's seen, the Marvel special. I love Werewolf by Night, and then there was Monsters Unleashed. So. But my favorite magazine of all was Famous Monsters of Filmland. I that was like $1.50, and man, that was like, you had to really seriously plan out your allowance expenditures for the month if you had $1 a week, if you know what I'm saying. So, just always kind of loved that stuff. And so when you say that comics is an addiction, I totally understand it. I still have some of my old comics. I love them. It's a unique form of visual storytelling.
And that's one thing I came across was the Age of Reptiles, and that looks freaking amazing. Like, just all the artwork and the writing of it and everything's just like you're basically just living out. I haven't read it yet, but I was like looking around to try to figure out how to get it. Then I looked on eBay. I was like, "Oh, that might be a little expensive." Some of them are. I know they were kind of hard to get, but there's an omnibus I saw. I could probably get that and start with that at least. But is that where to start? Pretty much, you think, if someone's
I mean, they have like individual collections. Like there's the last 2 I did. Ancient Egyptians and the Journey. I'm really proud of those. I feel like those represent kind of a big step in growth in terms of my storytelling as a comic book artist. But it's still based on being a kid in the 1970s and opening up Tomb of Dracula, and you watch Dracula turn into a bat and he glides through the panels on a page, and then he turns into human Dracula on the next page. It's still sort of continuity that's really important, and I grew up with dinosaurs. I was obsessed with them. I made our parents, take us to the museum here in Los Angeles, Natural History Museum, as much as possible. Same with the La Brea tar pits, although those are Pleistocene mammals. I love those as well, but they just discovered a saber tooth in the ice somewhere in Siberia that essentially is going to give them saber tooth DNA, which is pretty cool. It's not. It's not the classic Smilodon. It's a species called Homotherium, but still, it's going to be pretty neat to see more photos. It's like a kitten, and the saber teeth had not grown out yet, so they're born without the saber teeth, if you will. They kind of grow out as they get older. Now, I don't think that's something we know. So we're always discovering something new, about the prehistoric. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check those out and attempt it to get them at some point, or start trying to on eBay. But
Okay.
I mean, basically, it's just like dinosaurs living out their lives, right? Like, how does the Egyptian one? How does it fit in with that? Like Egyptian, like, is there like Egyptian characters in it, or what's
No,
going on?
basically the title is Ancient Egyptians, and that's because my main character in the story is a Spinosaurus, and that species of dinosaur was found exclusively in what is now known as Egypt, right? And so the
Cool.
title, like, they're ancient Egyptians, but they're dinosaur ancient
Do they
Egyptians.
talk in it, or do
No,
they
no,
just
no, no. Do they get in the arguments and argue over parking spaces or anything like that? No, they don't.
it's
It's
like
very,
National Geographic? It's like like watching one of those documentaries on dinosaurs, kind of, a cooler, probably.
yeah, yeah. And I wanted to make it very naturalistic and kind of give it its own sort of animal documentary kind of dignity, as you just mentioned. But I think it's really important for kids to see dinosaurs as animals, not necessarily monsters. Popular culture, like the Jurassic Park movies. I'm kind of guilty of that as well. I worked on the third Jurassic Park film,
Oh,
but
okay.
most definitely, you want to be able to have kids see dinosaurs as just they're animals that aren't around anymore. And
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to think of them as the monsters of our reality. I get that, but they were still they were born, out of eggs or live birth in some cases, and they lived and they grew, and then they died. But I just wanted to give them their own kind of dignity. But yet there's an aspect of character that I have in my character in my dinosaurs, like the Spinosaurus and the Ancient Egyptians comic is based on um, the Sergio Leone character played by Clint Eastwood in the movie Fistful of Dollars. I really love that movie as a kid, and I didn't know it was based on Yojimbo, which is a Japanese film directed by Akira Kurosawa. But most definitely, there's like a single cowboy or samurai that the my Spinosaurus is kind of based on. There's kind of a squiggly line on the back of the Spinosaurus, and it's based on the patch on the squiggly line on the poncho that's on Clint Eastwood in Fistful of Dollars. So there
Very
you go.
cool.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
And I've always had love the story of Dracula, love the historical story of Vlad, and how it just can intermingle in so many different ways, like into fantasy and horror, and just how that story evolved on so many levels and how he fit in the historical Vlad the Impaler to that. But I've read a lot of the comics and try to collect the ones about Vlad, and there's some weird ones out there that are good. And you've done a great job of bringing it together and adding all the elements, and the horror in it is just amazing.
Thank you.
What was the starting point for you and Mr. Vlad the Impaler?
Well, the starting point is me being a little kid and watching all those Universal monster films on TV every Halloween, and you know, I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have anything other than TV, and so every year around Halloween they would start to screen on the local TV channels the classic Universal monster films, and I really love them. And the thing that was really interesting to me is that the Frankenstein monster, he's kind of assembled from different corpses, but he has kind of a benign side where he's kind unexpectedly. And the Wolfman, hey, he's a guy that got bit by a dog. Essentially, he's kind of a victim of circumstance. And the creature from the Black Lagoon, he's a fish, right? He's a fish guy. He's an animal, if you will. But Dracula's the one that's like, hey, I'm the evil guy. I'm going to come into your room at night and I'm going to drink you dry and kill you. And so that's why he appealed to me. I also really love the Christopher Lee version as a kid too, because I kind of felt like that was kind of like the badass Dracula, if you will. Like the Lugosi Dracula was kind of like creepy and elegant, and kind of like very Eastern European, if you will. I mean, that is the character, of course, but the Christopher Lee Dracula was more, he was like a brute, he was more like, I'm not going to walk in, I'm going to run in and I'm going to rip your throat out. And they had these close-ups of the Christopher Lee Dracula where he's got these bloodshot eyes. I remember being a little kid and
those are crazy.
Like, yeah, no, so I was kind of taken aback by that stuff, but I also, had these different ideas based on some of the other films that I watched. Like I really, enjoyed seeing stuff like The Fly and, the original Cat People. And those films also really kind of very much like they scared me. Not to spoil anything for your audience, but in The Fly, he kind of gets his head crushed in an oppressor. It's very tragic, but also very scary. And that I remember being a little boy and thinking that was really, creepy and scary. He also had that claw for a hand. And I thought that he had like one regular hand and then he had the other claw hand. And I thought that was really cool / creepy at the same time. So
I just saw they're making a Flyverse.
Oh, really? Okay. I will say that I like the 80s Fly as well. It's a cool one. It's in my opinion not as cool as the original Fly, because the original Fly is just like this fly head, and it was just really weird. And he had like he had like a sheet over his head, and he had that one claw hand. It was really weird. And I just, like I said, maybe I saw that stuff too early. I don't know, but I was pretty obsessed about all that. And my parents tried to control all that with me in the sense where, like sometimes they'd see me reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, and there was like Christopher Lee impaled, and my mom would walk by and whisk that out of my hands. And that was the last time I saw that, but anyway, I tied all that together and just said, I want to do a real scary, badass version of Dracula. I felt like a few of the interpretations more recently had focused on the romantic side of the character, and I wanted to kind of go back to kind of the warlord Dracula, the conqueror Dracula, the badass, really, really ruthless version. You see that version in the Tomb of Dracula comics in the 1970s, and they were drawn by this guy named Gene Colan. And man, I love those comics. I thought he was really ruthless, and it was Abraham.
Which comics were those again?
It's called Tomb of Dracula. Like here's my T-shirt Like that's Tomb of Dracula right there. That's Gene Colan's Dracula right
Okay.
there. And
Okay.
yeah, and they have like several compilations. Not to guide you to spend more money on comics, Jeffrey, but very definitely
Oh,
like that's a really good one. That's like the I think it's Van Helsing's great granddaughter, Rachel Van Helsing. That's sort of the main um, protagonist, and that series introduces Blade as well. And so it just meant a lot to me. I thought it was an important sort of step toward this story, and this story for me is pretty close to the Bram Stoker original story. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to expand the universe to include more of a supernatural world in the sense where there's more vampires, and he's considered the king of the vampires. But like I said, he's kind of a ruthless guy. He's not really into the whole like, hey, let's kind of negotiate everything. That's not his deal. He collects taxes from the other vampires, and they try to get him assassinated at a certain point. There's some that support him and some that don't. And it's very even though it's still very much what the novel is, there's just kind of this big expansion into the world of the supernatural. There's like ghosts and skeletons. He's got like a skeleton army. They're a legion of Romans that are now like skeletons, and they do whatever he says. And he has this horde of rats that he puts in another coffin, and they run around and do whatever he says also. So, but
nice.
he still goes back to, he's still in Transylvania. He still goes to London, but this time he's there to seek revenge for something that happened during the Crimean War in the middle of the 1800s. And so I did kind of set it historically like that as well.
So when it comes to Vlad the Impaler, what do you think about the historical story? I mean, a lot of it was really cruel, but it seemed kind of necessary on some level to survive, which, that's not going to happen in today's world. But back then, you got it was crazy. They were going to pretty much do crazy stuff to him too. They were already, the enemy that he had to fight.
Yeah, most definitely. Ancient history, even more recent history, like that is being documented more and more. And yeah, those were not the most tolerant of times. A lot of lines drawn in the sand, and if you cross those lines, there would be trouble. Sort of the meeting of the Ottoman Empire and Eastern Christendom, if you will, was ripe with conflict. And my story alludes to that. In my story, he's still obviously he's a member of the undead, and he actually has taken on the Order of the Dragon, the Order of the Dracul, and betrayed them as well, because that's what warlords do. They conquer and betray. But there is a history there between himself and the Ottoman Empire. I hope to expand on that as I go. I still have 2 prequel stories. This novel takes place basically in 1899. Okay, and it's the story of Dracula and his inability to adapt to modernity. But I do have 2 other books planned where you see his journey from essentially his birth to this first novel. So he goes
Nice.
all over the world and does all kinds of cruel Dracula stuff. But I want to visit areas of history that are interesting unto themselves, like the Crusades, like the fall of Constantinople. All that stuff is medieval Spain. All that stuff is, I think, ripe for exploration. Like, take any period in history, drop Dracula into it. I think you have instant interest, right? So
Yeah, I got something for you. I've asked, there's a guy, Dara Mason, that was just on. He wrote a book, A Song of the Dark Man, which is basically like a witchcraft book. It was creepy. It was her Halloween show.
okay,
Basically, he was saying there's a dark man that's a little bit more complex than the Christian devil. That's in Irish culture, Welsh, and he basically says it's an initiatory to witchcraft. It was a real creepy show. It even creeped me out, but it was good. But I asked him this question, and I've asked Stephen Flowers, another guy. I'll have to send you his interview. He wrote a book that's really good. Forgetting the name, but we talked about monster kids and kids like us who grew up with this stuff and we escaped into it and we still carry it. I'll have to send you that one, Stephen Flowers. But the question I asked, I'm wondering if you've ever come across this word, and it's scholomance. Like it's like some kind of secret weird school that has some kind of Dracula Transylvania connection. And if you actually, I'll spell it to you, but if it's a weird word, but if you actually look it up, they say it's part of Transylvania. Here it is, scholomance, Vlad the Impaler. That's part of Transylvania folklore. But something about, I'm trying to find it right now so
I got it. No, I got it. It's
it's like
scholomance. It's a fabled school of black magic in Romania, especially the region of Transylvania. It was run by the devil, according to folkloric accounts. The school enrolled about 10 students to become the Scholomari. No, that's pretty cool. I mean, I hadn't heard of that one yet.
And no one I ask about it usually does. So I'm thinking, maybe you could use it somehow. I don't know, but it's interesting for sure.
No, I think it's interesting. And like I said, you could take Dracula and you can put him in any historical context, and it just becomes really interesting. Yeah, no.
There's only one book named that actual with that name in the title. It's like some young adults that has nothing to do with Dracula whatsoever at all. And I don't know. But the thing that's weird, they say something about 5 people like go in and one has to stay back with the devil and he teaches them the dark arts. Like there's some, I just wonder where, if you find anything else on it, ever let me know. 'Cause I'm just curious where the hell it even came from. It's weird.
I will. I definitely, there was some stuff I could not fit into the novel that I wish I could. For example, down about New Orleans way, there's the story of Madame Lalaurie. And she was a New Orleans socialite and serial killer who was believed to have tortured and murdered enslaved people in her household.
Huh.
And she lived from 1787 to 1849. And it's a pretty famous story. So I was like, boy, how could I make could I make her into a vampire? How would that work?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's what I mean. I feel like
doesn't Kathy Bates play her in American Horror Story or something like that? Maybe the same character.
You know what? I don't know. For some reason, American Horror Story has escaped me. So you have one up on me, but
it's got its ups and downs. There's some really good ones, but some of them you're like, oh, I don't know if I can get through this, but some of them are really good. There's one particular one that freaks me out. There's American Horror Story, which is just like the regular show, but there's this other one called American Horror Stories, and it's like it's kind of like Tales from the Crypt or Creep Show. It's like little 1-hour episodes. There's one in it that really creeped me out, and because we do paranormal here a lot and UFOs, we've had those kind of experiences, and it's why we're here. But what basically on that particular show, it's about this national park and people going missing in it. And there's like feral, weird cannibal mutants in it. And there's like a government cover up and there's like top secret paperwork and it's real creepy. But there's actually some paranormal cases called Missing 411 where people are vanishing in national parks. But it's a real creepy episode. That was really creepy.
No, that sounds creepy. It kind of sounds like The Descent, but above ground. The Descent is kind of underrated horror thing as well, in my opinion. So
those are good for sure. And prequels, well, we look forward to that. That'll be awesome for sure. But
thank you.
And the main reason we do the show is a long time ago, and I've told my story so many times I'm even tired of telling it. But when I was 17, I had testicular cancer and had to go through chemo and woke up. We found out that when I woke up from exploratory surgery, like we took a nut and I just started crying and I had to go through chemo, and I'm fine now and everything. It was a long time ago. But a few years later, my dad died and it was just a lot. And I started to have really weird experiences of seeing UFOs over houses where I live with witnesses, saw some beings of light leaving my house, like just glowing weird people. I was sober, and I've seen stuff partying too, but that particular time I was sober. But just weird experiences that led us to interviewing big personalities that are, into this stuff. A lot of them have passed away, like Stanton Friedman, and just some big ones like you see in the old school documentaries on this kind of stuff. One thing I want to say for Wham and our listeners, if you want some good paranormal stuff right now, me and Christina are watching Alien Investigation on Netflix. It's a whole George Knapp series that's really good. You'd probably like it, Wham. And then there's a crazy one on Hulu called Out There, Crimes of the Paranormal. And it's by the Duplass brothers. I forget what they did. But it's weird crimes that involve paranormal elements. And it's not always that the paranormal stuff is real. It might be just a crazy dude doing crimes, but somehow it gets fit into it. And it was really good. Those are two, really good ones that are actually, I don't watch that many, but the good ones I will for sure. But
I mean, if it's a good story, I like it. Like, for example, I'm a big fan of the Cognetti brothers, Hell House LLC.
Yeah,
movies. Like they're, you're getting everything they got with all the money they have to spend. And there is a very complex history through the Hell House LLC films, and it all just kind of works as a complete history. And I really respect their efforts to.
They're good.
Yeah, no, I like them a lot. I'm not one to snub my nose at anyone's efforts. I feel like if you come up with a project, a story, a movie, or what have you, and it has its own dignity, then very cool. And I love those movies. I mean, they're creepy as all get out. But
those are really good. The one I remember, the one I saw last, the clown kept showing up. That was really crazy.
Yeah, no, and like and it's funny because like they'll move the camera and then you come back and the clown is moved slightly, and that stuff is always creepy. Like that always works. That's never gonna be, I get the jump scare stuff. I get that, but that whole feeling of creepiness is one that's elusive, and some people can do it and some people can't,
That's like those are the best, is the subtle stuff.
That's right.
I'm someone who've seen, the Terrifier stuff, and that guy is a friend of mine, David Howard Thornton, on Facebook. We're not like best friends, but he comes on my page and like talks crap about Trump and then leaves and stuff, which is fine. I agree with him most of the time, but he's the guy that plays that crazy clown. Okay. Those movies are really good, but they're sick. Like I'm like, I watch it and I'm like, this character's the creepiest thing I've ever seen. This is really great. But the kill stuff is like, I don't know if I can watch this one again. It's too much.
I mean, like I'm more of a ghost, ghouls, and goblins kind of guy. The slasher stuff for me, it's like I recently saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and like, okay, that movie is supposed to horrify you, right? Like it's supposed to be really horrifying. It does that like very much. But when you can take it and combine it with the supernatural, like for example, Sinister does that very well, in my opinion. Like I watched Sinister, and I'm like, okay, that one it's a slasher movie, but it's got the supernatural element in it, and like that one really impressed me.
So that was a good one. Yeah, they used that one like in some psychological test on people or something I read about that movie, and like some kind of weird thing that happened, some kind of like group study or something weird with it. But
also like the whole aspect of filmmaking in the Sinister movie, the first one anyway, that applies to that. I mean, the whole found footage thing is interesting to me. Is there's sometimes you kind of have to suspend your sense of disbelief to be able to watch those found footage films, but they are intrinsically, when they're well done, and regardless of budget, right? When they're well done, and we just talked about the Hell House films, they creep you out. Like they very strategically move the camera one way and they come back and something's a little different. It's just really cool. It's very effective.
think the last found footage I saw was one on Frogman, that love one, like it's real paranormal, but it's called Frogman. It was decent. The
Okay,
effects were crazy, but it's about a frogman. Like that's a real paranormal case where people
nice.
saw a frogman or something
Okay,
crazy.
all right. No, I'm pretty. Look, I'm a sucker for that. There was this movie that when I was a little kid, they used to have drive-in movies that were made by this company called Sun Enterprises, and they made Chariots of the Gods, and, and I was like really excited about that. I remember being like 7 or 8 years old, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we gotta go see that. I was kind of voted down on that one, and then there was another one called Legend of Bogey Creek, and
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
one.
man, like, and again, I was kind of, I think we ended up watching, a Disney thing at the drive-in instead, but I just thought that stuff was really cool and a lot of fun. The whole pseudo documentary thing, but back then, like I bought all that Bigfoot stuff, the Loch Ness monster stuff. I loved all that. Like there's the photo of the Yeti footprint, and there's like a pickaxe there next to
Yeah.
it in the snow. I was obsessed with all that. It's kind of
It's
still am, to
amazing.
be honest.
There's we've had a lot of big personalities on about Bigfoot. There's one guy, Ron Moorhead. He's like a real big author about that has some vocals that he caught, but he has a book, Quantum Bigfoot, where he gets into quantum physics and Bigfoot and like the abilities they have in a scientific way that basically anyone that calls it woo and thinks it's stupid, it's in your face like this is science, and he's really good at it. He's on a lot of big shows, but the big thing with Bigfoot and everything is we've done a lot of those shows, and that Bogey Creek brought a lot of people into that seriously. Like a lot of the researchers, they're like in the woods now still looking for Bigfoot because they saw Bogey Creek, which I'll walk through the woods, but I'm not going to go out there like that.
Well, there's this TV show that I loved as a kid called In Search of, and
Yeah.
it was narrated by Leonard Nimoy. And there's a Bigfoot episode that describes a guy kind of living in a cabin, in the middle of the woods. And it was kind of one of those like really small pioneer cabins, if you will, kind of, I'm explaining it very ignorantly, but it was like a small cabin. And then there's like, the story is that 2 or 3 big feet, if you will, attacked the cabin. And I remember being a little kid, and I was like, that's like really scary. That really freaked me out. And of course, there's the Loch Ness monster episode as well. Like I really gravitated. That was kind of the second layer of those of my. There was like the Universal monster stuff that I loved, and like the Aurora model kits and whatnot, the comic books. But then there was also these documentaries and whatnot, and TV shows that I loved as a kid. It kind of culminated for me, when Bigfoot sort of ended up on the $6 Million Man, and it was like Andre the Giant. I'm getting pretty nerdy here, but it's
You're good.
okay. That's the stuff that I loved, and I remember like Steve Austin rips off Bigfoot's arm, and that was a big shock. That was kind of like, uh, that was kind of like the beginning, or kind of a phase where, oh my gosh, Bigfoot is a robot. And it was kind of, that must have been, it had to have been during the whole Star Wars thing too. But
Yeah.
I was just like really interested in all that, and all that stuff, got eventually woven into, my Dracula book. And I'm, I've done a lot of concept design for movies. And what I did is I created this, a bunch of concept art to help sell the book, but there was so much left over that Clover Press took it and made it into an art of book, like that Art of Star Wars series of books that I really loved as a kid as well too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
You'd
that,
be good at something in the future with cryptids, these kind of different things, maybe something.
I've thought about it, that I definitely would like to do that.
Your
Yeah,
art,
I
man.
definitely thought about. I am kind of obsessed with the, with the whole Mothman thing too. I really, I remember reading about that as a little kid. There was a lot of like cryptid books when I was younger. Bigfoot, the Loch Ness monster, and I remember reading about the Mothman somewhere in, I think it was West Virginia or Kentucky, and I just thought that was really creepy and really eerie. And I remember thinking maybe it's like a big owl. I don't know, but I loved all that stuff. Still do, to be honest. Although I kind of need to see them now. Like I'm 60 years old now, and I wish one would just walk out of the woods into town and just let everybody take a picture of it.
Some
That
of
would-
the weirdest stuff going on with paranormal. If you get that show Alien Investigation with George Knapp, he goes down to Brazil and talks to people who were attacked by UFOs, and he's got like some crazy military people on this show. There's actually this black site. Middle East footage of a jellyfish kind of thermal image UFO that goes through a military base, and he has to protect the source because basically it's a felony to share that kind of stuff if you're like, I guess, in the military and release it. But he's like dealing with CIA and trying to get the footage of this big event that happened down in South America where people were attacked by UFOs. It was a case a while back, a long time ago, not that newest weirdness, but something a long time ago. But the biggest thing about George Knapp is he wrote that book with Com Kelleher. Is it Wham? That's the right book, right? I messed up that dude's name. He's on the show too, the guy that did the Skinwalker Ranch book with George Knapp. But the weirdest thing, and I don't want to get into this too heavily, if you watch Secret of Skinwalker Ranch and the new show on the History Channel, Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, they have this ranch, and George Knapp's all caught up in this. But basically, all this phenomenon is happening from Bigfoot to aliens to weird wolves. And the government bought that ranch and studied it through Robert Bigelow a long time ago. Now another guy has it, Brandon Fugel, and they've come out about studying this ranch under the government eye, and crazy stuff happens. They even show the footage on this show of crazy stuff. But the craziest thing about the show is there is so many government spooks on that show on the History Channel, former CIA, Utah state attorney, and they have a roundtable at the end to talk about black helicopters that keep coming there from another section of the government and harassing them. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing you'll ever see, and it's real. I mean, I'm not going to say everything on it's real, but I don't watch many of those shows unless they're good. But there's really stuff happening on that ranch, and the government is basically involved on this show so much it's alarming, more alarming than the aliens.
That takes me to probably my favorite TV show of all time, which is the X-Files, and there's an episode called Deep Throat in the first season that's kind of basically what you described, where Mulder's trying to get onto this base. I think it's in Idaho, and the whole theory behind all that is kind of an interesting one. The idea that the military is taking alien technology and using it to make their own ships, right? And so it's not necessarily a traditional sort of straight alien presence, but it's something that we've captured and we are sort of adapting for our own use as well. And I really like that episode. I really like that show as well. That one meant a lot to me. That's probably my favorite TV show of all time.
That is a good one. That is a good one. We recently watched a Quartermass in the Pit and how they're drilling.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah,
that movie gave me the creeps because they're doing the same crap at Skinwalker Ranch on that show.
Yeah,
they're drilling into something. It's like, is this a government psyop? It's really getting weird. But that Quartermass in the Pit gets really weird.
That's right. No, I saw that really young here in Los Angeles on Channel 5. And that one kind of blew my mind as a little kid. And, you're sitting there and they're finding aliens in the tunnels in London. And you're like, what is this? What is this, man?
A UFO.
I just tuned in to watch some grasshopper monsters. And it turns out that, these aliens are buried under the tube. Well, I don't know if the tube
permafrost.
Yeah. And it was just like that one blew. I mean, it's very Lovecraftian as well, right? But still, really cool, really creepy, and it's one of those things. Like if you're a kid of a certain age, like this stuff really kind of advanced you as someone who's kind of interested in that sort of thing. And like if you're reading about the Hulk, you kind of knew about gamma radiation, right? Back then, if you read Spider-Man, his webbing was made out of asbestos, which now in hindsight, maybe you shouldn't have done that. But the Wolverine's claws were made out of adamantium and all that, and so you kind of had a primer about science. But in horror, you kind of learn about folk horror. It's the history of that country and that region. It's really cool, and so you kind of get a broader range of knowledge and human interest. You can't really fit that on an elementary school report card, though. It's kind of eludes the interests and the grade scale of your average fourth grade instructor, and that's kind of where I don't want to say I ran afoul, but sometimes it was kind of funny because I would I would present stuff in class, like I would do a book report, and there was one of my favorite book as a little kid was this book called Animal Ghosts. Okay, if you look it up, it's a Scholastic book. It's a green cover with like a Komodo dragon on it. Boy, I love that book. It was so cool. Okay, and so I remember reading it in it talking about the evolution of whales, and so I wrote a book report to that effect, and then I read it in class, and then I believe her name was Mrs. Patton, my fourth grade teacher, and she said something like, "Mr. Delgado, whales did not evolve from the land," and I said, "Well, Animal Ghosts, my book here, begs to differ, and so she's like, "Well, bring it in tomorrow and show me." So then the next day I show up here at my elementary school, fourth grade, with my copy of Animal Ghosts, and I said, "See, here you go on page 53. It actually says that." And then she said something that really stuck with me. She said, "Well, you shouldn't really believe everything that you read in the book." And I remember being pretty pretty mad about, like, well, I did what you said I wasn't telling the truth. Here's my proof. Where's your proof saying that I'm wrong? And so it kind of got me to thinking about what's truth and what's not, and how to present it, and what you think versus what someone of importance, in this case my elementary school teacher, thinks. But those were valuable lessons for me.
Was that edited by Carolyn Lloyd? Carolyn Lloyd? I'm trying to find the book. And I know there's one with a white owl on it and a bunch of neat faces of animals, but
if you do Animal Ghosts and then you put Scholastic books.
Okay. Scholastic. I'm just trying to find it so I can save it.
I'll put it in the chat. Hold on, if I can see it.
Okay. Yeah, there's one there's a bunch of different ones called that, so it gets weird. Plastic one.
There it is. Okay, True Life Adventures. It's I'm gonna send you a link right now.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, that one meant a lot to me, man. That was pretty cool. And I really wanted it to there's on eBay. Visit site. It's on eBay. Hey, $15. Not bad. So yeah, I loved this one as a little kid. It was super impressive, and I love the artwork as well. I have like 2 or 3 copies now, including my childhood copy. I was really blown away by that. I wish I had a better edited by Claudia Clow. Let me do that. Yeah, here's the Amazon. No. Anyway, so I mean those there was a lot of books that I read as a kid as well, like A Ghost, a Witch, and a Goblin, Ghost That Went to School. There was one that taught me how to do makeup, and when I was a youngster, I was really obsessed with the Wolfman for a while, and there's a book by this guy named Alan Ormsby that taught you.
Okay, I found it. True Life Adventures, Animal Ghosts, Walt Disney's Animal Ghosts.
Right.
Okay, let me just save that. I like to find weird stuff.
No, like I'm going to send you this one here, and it's pretty cool. This one I actually found. I had this as a little kid, and I wanted to be the Wolfman. And in that book, it instructs you to save your the clippings from your haircut for the whole year, and then glue them on rubber gloves for the Wolfman's arms, and then glue them onto your face. And I
Yeah.
did. I did that. I did that. That must have been, fourth or fifth grade, but I was really impressed by that. And Alan Ormsby ended up working in the movie business. He was actually the writer of the remake of Cat People. He's on Facebook. I follow him pretty closely. So that was another important book. In that book, you could do like a paper mache Frankenstein monster head to put on your head. It was pretty inventive. I liked it a lot. I was a pretty, I had an interesting childhood. Let's put it that way. I
Yeah.
enjoyed all that. Yeah, yeah. At one point, my parents made me take the accordion, which I was really not into, to be honest. The truth be told, but then there was a liquor store next door that sold trading cards and chewing gum, which young people may not know even exists anymore. But back in the day, you could go get sticks of chewing gum and with trading cards, and they had a trading card set of all the Universal Monster publicity photos. And I was excited to go to my accordion lessons, not for the actual accordion lessons, but if I had an extra 10 cents or 20 cents, I'd buy a pack of those Universal Monster cards. Those are on eBay as well, although they're kind of expensive.
Yeah, I can remember so many, coming up to my mom and Kroger with that Thing comic, the Thing from Fantastic Four and
Of course.
Spider-Man, and bringing it, mommy, having a little comic book. One time I ran off to a gas station that was down the highway with a friend named Pookie and bought a bunch of comics and got grounded because I went on the freeway. But,
there was one time that I used to
Pookie?
go.
Pookie?
Yeah, some reason they called him Pookie. I don't know why.
Pookie?
I never asked. Thank God. Probably didn't want to know.
I budgeted my dollar very carefully, but there was one time I got to the comic book store, and there was a comic book there. It was oversized, and it said Spider-Man meets Superman, and it was like $1.50, and I had $1, and I was like, what am I gonna do? This thing it's sometimes you just have to go for it. And I ran back to my mom, who's in the grocery store. I'm like, Mom, I need like 55 cents, like right now. And so she was really nice about it, and she gave me actually like 60 cents. And I ran back and I bought the comic, and then she had given me her keys, and I just went to the car and I sat in the car and I just read Superman meets Spider-Man, and that was
was that like a Marvel DC team up?
That was the OG, as they say. That was the first one. That was a big deal. I was more of a Marvel kid, I got to be honest. Although I did dabble in the whole Swamp Thing. I thought he was a cool monster.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Although the Marvel version is Man Thing. I thought Man Thing was pretty cool as well. Downstairs I have like a really nice. I have way too many action figures as well. I have a really nice Man Thing about yay big. It's the one from the werewolf special.
I saw that one. I didn't get it, but I saw it. I was like, is the werewolf going to come out? I'm sure eventually they'll do.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, look, again, I was obsessed with the Wolfman as a kid. Although I will say my favorite Wolfman movie of all time is An American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis. It still makes me laugh. It's still really scary, and that's like that werewolf is like the most ferocious werewolf I've ever seen in a movie. It just rips people to shreds. I remember being a teenager going to see that, and I was just like, "What the heck is this thing?" When it starts mauling, one of the kids at the beginning of the movie. It was terrifying and then like really funny at the same time. The same year The Howling came out, and I like The Howling a lot. I'm not going to complain about it, but An American Werewolf in London, that one, that was an important movie for me as well.
Yeah, those are really good. I've seen the other ones, but the first one, nothing beats that first one for sure.
Nothing beats that first one, man. Yeah,
Have you
absolutely.
seen the werewolf movie? It's not too old. It's called Late Phases.
No,
You
late
should check it
phases
out.
or
Yeah, it's called Late Phases, and there may be a little subtitle with it, but Late Phases should find it. But I would highly recommend it if you can find it. It
there it
really,
is. Okay.
it's about this blind dude who goes to an old folks' home, and he's former military, and they have a werewolf problem.
They have a werewolf problem.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually really good. It
All
was
right.
really. I could watch it again. It surprised
No,
me.
that's cool though. One of I when I enjoyed I enjoyed Kolchak the Night Stalker when I was a little kid as well. I thought
Yeah,
that
those are
was
great.
yeah, but that first vampire movie, it's just called The Night Stalker. It's really effective. The Vampire in Las Vegas. I have the DVD of those first two movies. I actually have the box set of the TV series, but it's not as scary as that first one. I remember being little and there's a fight that happens between the vampire and a bunch of cops, and I remember being really impressed by that. I was like,
What
wow.
show is this? Which show?
It's called The Night Stalker.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the first movie. It's not the TV series. The TV series is a little more humorous in tone, and I felt like the first two movies they're more, especially that first one, are more serious. I just never seen anything like that before. You know.
I had a run in with some Kolchak comics from I think it's James Aquilon makes them, and they did a
Okay.
lot of comics. But there's also a book on Amazon. I haven't got it yet, but it's one I want to get. It's about Kolchak and the Necronomicon somehow. Like,
Ooh.
good reviews. Yeah, it's like a
Okay.
Kolchak Necronomicon fiction story.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. Thank
Yeah,
you.
let me make sure I'm looking for the. I know Al Going Back, a friend of mine that's a native horror author. He's done some kind of anthology that's Kolchak stories too. That
Oh,
they,
no kidding. Okay.
yeah, he's down here in Florida. He writes a lot of Native American horror that's really good. His name's
Hey,
Al.
that's really cool. I think that the more that I mean, I'm of the opinion that all horror is folk horror, and and it's. I think the more we start learning about other folks' experience with their their cultural horror stories, it's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. I'm a big fan of those Conjuring movies. That whole Conjuring universe is a lot of fun. It's not, it's not as violent perhaps as some of the other franchises, but it's big on the spooky stuff. I like it a lot.
Yeah, they're I've seen them. They're good. Some are better than others, but yeah, they're not
I would
horrible.
agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah,
That
some are better
book's
than others.
Kolchak, Kolchak Necronomicon, Kolchak the Night Stalker. It's just Kolchak Necronomicon by C.J. Henderson. Seems like it's illustrated, but somehow it's a fiction story that ties the Necronomicon and Kolchak. So yeah, I need to
Oh,
get that. I have to
there it
grab
is.
that.
Okay, that's cool. All right. I
Yeah, I'm
love
gonna have to
that.
grab
I
that
mean,
for
he was
sure.
perfect for that role as well. I mean, as much as I love the X Files, I got to acknowledge that Kolchak the Night Stalker, that
That's the
seems
inspiration for that. A
that
lot of
there it is right there, man. You can't really argue about that. So there you go.
I need to watch them again. I've watched them, but I need a refresher course for sure and to rewatch them at
Okay,
some point.
you know what's funny is I kind of rewatched the X Files episodes that I really like on Hulu. I have them on DVD, but the quality of the Hulu broadcast is a little higher, so I still
Yeah,
enjoy them.
I
I
got them
still
on
enjoy them.
DVD too. It's like this big giant box set, but now there's like Blu-ray. I never caught up to the Blu-ray, but I don't.
Okay.
But
There's an
yeah,
episode of the X Files, the first season, called Shapes, and it's sort of combining the Native American folklore with the werewolf story, and that's another one of my favorite episodes as well. Like that one, I like that one a lot. Then there's Ice, which is kind of like the Thing, right? I mean, the Thing. Look, I mean, we could talk about the Thing, and I could talk about the Thing for another hour. I mean, I love that movie. That's probably you know,
yeah,
I'm glad I saw it when I was that age, man. Because if I would have seen it when I was a little kid, that would have just, that would have really affected me. Although I saw Alien when I was 15 years old, and even then, that was terrifying. That's still Alien, The Exorcist. Those are still probably the most terrifying films I've ever seen.
One of the biggest movies that gave me the jitters as a kid, and I rewatched it recently, and it was the Toxic Avenger, and I know there's I mean, I like some of those movies, but they're kind of trashy, and you're like, oh, how do I feel about this? But when I was a kid, my dad watched that first one, and there's a scene where they run over kids' heads.
Oh
And
my
for some
gosh.
reason, that really
No,
really got me.
it's how stuff hits you when you're a little kid. I mean, that's
Yeah,
yeah, like I really remember in one of the mummy movies, there's a female mummy, and she comes out of the ground. She's been buried in like a river or something like that. She comes out of the ground, and for whatever reason, that scared me more than the other Carice mummy movies or the Boris Karloff mummy film. It just kind of depends what hits you as a little kid and how that impresses you. There's it's all an emotional thing, man. It's all about how that stuff kind of bounces around inside you.
yeah. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the new Nosferatu coming out by Eggers.
Oh, no kidding, man. That trailer looks really cool. Love that a lot. I mean, most certainly in my Art of Dracula book in the back, I have like a top 10. I list a bunch of vampire movies that I really like. But that both the original and the Herzog version, I think are
Yeah,
amazing. But this trailer, I have high hopes for this one. There's that shot of the hand reaching over the city. It's really cool. I
yeah.
love.
I love Nosferatu. I have a lot of those figures and stuff, and I had to like quit collect them because they just started coming out with so many. I'm like, I can't keep up with them. I already have
Me
like 10
too.
of them.
I know. I wish I could reach over and grab. I have a really cool Nosferatu
There's been
sculpted
some
by.
good ones. There was a Nika one recently. The Nika one they just did, and
That's a
Nika
good one.
did, yeah, Nika did a London After Midnight one too. That was
I saw that one as well. I was at Son of Monster Palooza last month or whenever that was, and I was sorely tempted by that. I have to say, I was sorely tempted.
if you look on Kickstarter right now, the Cheney family is doing a London After Midnight comic graphic novel that's a
Ooh,
hardback, or you can get soft cover, but it just started up and they're basically going to do the whole story in comic book. It's on
ooh,
Kickstarter right now. I'm sure they're
that.
going to retell it.
Oh, that's cool. Okay,
Yeah.
excited to hear that. I love hearing that. Wow.
It's
All
by the
right.
Cheney family and they're involved. Yeah. But definitely that Werner Herzog. I love all the Nosferatus, but the Werner Herzog one, that one's really Klaus Kinski. That one's something else. That one's just
Hey, that's like an art movie. I gotta say, like the first, although like if you watch carefully the original, the Murnau version, there is a werewolf in that. There's Dracula in wolf form, or and it's a hyena. They got a hyena to run across the screen. It goes like this, but if you watch it again, there's like this hyena in the movie, and you're like, what is that? And that's Count Orlok as a werewolf. But I agree with you. The Herzog version, I feel like it's like that's like an art movie. That and Alien,
yeah.
those are like two art films,
Did you
right?
ever get to see Shadow the Vampire with Malkovich and Defoe? That was pretty
Yeah,
good.
I like that one a lot. That's pretty good. I enjoyed the sort of making of the movie with the real vampire aspect of that film.
Good.
I think it's terrific. If you, that would be a good thing if you're a young person to watch. I would watch the original and then watch Shadow of the Vampire, and then that's a really that sounds like a lot of fun if you haven't seen either one of those to see the original movie and then you're watching the original movie being filmed in the second film. That to me is terrific. Although I have to say, I'm hoping that they do justice in this new Robert Eggers film because I was a big witch fan. I really love that movie. I think it was very impressive. And now
Yeah.
he's got like the saturated thing going on in the trailer, and it's just
Lighthouse was good. That was crazy as hell. And then
that,
Norseman, that was crazy. He's
yeah,
good. Good. You haven't seen anything that great in a while. The guy that with that ferocious for fierceness in movie making.
right. No, it's a very it's uh, I was explaining to I teach as well. I teach at Art Center College of Design, and I was explaining to my students this week is like, cinema is this intangible thing, but you kind of know when you see it. It's just kind of it's right there in your face, and it just presents itself. And that's why when you watch that Herzog Nosferatu, it just has this feeling of a painting. There's the scenes where he's carrying the coffin through the town square, and man, they must have made that thing out of foam core because he's carrying it around like it's no problem, because he's super
Yeah.
strong. But there's a scene where he kind of walks into the shot, and there's like street lights that backlight him, and it looks like an impressionist painting. And I really appreciate the attention to that. Also,
I
like
love
the scene with the rats on the table, you're just like, wow, that's really creepy as
It's
well.
haunting. The creepiest part is like mummified babies at the beginning, like in some
That
Moscow.
was no
Those are
fooling
real.
around, man. Yeah, that's
Those are
like
real.
the effects budget for that sequence was nothing. They just used real stuff,
Like
and
a
so
real underground
yeah,
sarcophagus or whatever, like
yeah,
in some of those countries where they have the dead underground to look at them or whatever.
yeah. No,
I have a book filled with stuff like that. Memento Mori. I've had that guy on, but it's a whole book just filled with these different like burial creepy places like
okay.
that. The
I
creepy.
there's a Bradbury book called The Mummies of Guanajuato, and I think it came out in the 60s, but it's pretty amazing. I would highly recommend it. And
Huh.
there's just close-ups on those mummies, and they may have influenced Herzog, but they're just folks that can't pay the cemetery tax, and so they would get dug up and put in this sort of
Huh.
underground chamber. Yeah, and it has Bradbury's prose, and I was a big Bradbury fan as a little kid. I felt like his stuff it made fantasy and science fiction accessible to sort of a younger reader like myself.
Yeah.
I was a public library kid, so I discovered, like Tarzan and um, John Carter of Mars, like those stories. I discovered them through the public library, and like they had those Frank Frazetta covers from the 60s and 70s that were, really amazing and just filled with mood and lighting, and was super impressed by that.
That's a strange little book. They don't have many of them on eBay, but I mean, there's just enough to where you could probably find one, but some of them are really expensive, but some are decent, like 25 bucks, but some are like 200 bucks. But that's a strange book. I'll have to grab one that's cheaper for sure. That's weird.
Oh, you talking about the Guanajuato book?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I would recommend it. That's a good one. That's certainly when I've had to draw mummies and stuff like that, corpses. Like for my book, I would look at it because you can't get stranger than the truth, right? Many times, like that was a big influence on me as well, and I was really intrigued by the way that Ray would take his stories and just kind of weave them around real cultural events. The Halloween Tree, everybody, if you haven't read that, that's a really good one to introduce your kids to Halloween. Sort of talks about different Halloween ceremonies all over the world or their equivalent, and that one meant a lot to me as a kid. It was made into a TV show, a TV movie, and Leonard Nimoy is the lead in that too. So pretty fun.
Well, let's see here. Let's we're going on about an hour and 10 minutes or so. So first off, I just want to say what a great show. We really appreciate it. It's been really, really good, and so many different subjects from Dracula to Vlad to paranormal. You can't get any better than that, for sure.
No, thank you. No, it was great for you guys to have me on. I always enjoy, talking about things that go bump in the night, but also the stuff that, meant a lot to me as a kid that ended up really influencing me as a storyteller and a novelist and an author. So, we didn't even talk about the tarot cards, but I'm proud of those as well. And I'm glad we could have this time to chat. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I read the titles of them, but we never really got like deep into it. There's so much Dracula to get into. That's like but yeah, those tarot cards, I have those, and they are amazing and really
Thank
well.
you. No, they're sold out now. I have to say, you can find them on eBay, but they're from Clover Press. They're sold out now. So
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate it, and I also appreciate you guys talking about my stuff and getting the word out a little bit. I feel like I created something with as much dignity and effort as I could, and it's nice to see the public reacting to it like that.
Well, according to Joe Montaldo, who owns the network and he's on Ancient Aliens sometimes, we're hitting about 900,000 listeners a show. So I hope hope those cards come back in and people buy them on Amazon. The different cards, the Dracula of Transylvania tarot card set by Ricardo Delgado. And you just put in Dracula of Transylvania tarot card set and check it out and go to cloverpress.us. Thanks so much, Ricardo. Really cool. We appreciate it. Keep us in the loop on those prequels. We'll get you back on or whatever's going down. Keep us in the loop.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciate it. You guys have a good evening. What a pleasure it was to be on. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, man. All righty, everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM, New Orleans. And next week, we got a Small Town Monsters guest, Ron Murphy. I always forget the name of the book. Ron Murphy. I think it's like Phantom Lights and stuff. It's already in my search engine because I looked it up recently. Lights in the Mist. So that'll be a paranormal type show with Small Town Monsters. And got a show Thanksgiving week. Usually get it off, but figure this was a good one, so I got him on. I'll be fat from Thanksgiving and turkey and deviled eggs. How about those deviled eggs representing some pecan pie? But Thanksgiving, it's like I don't like the whole holiday because of the native situation, but the food, you just can't. I can't help that. The food is too good. But I always make comments about turkeys taste like napkins. Turkey tastes like napkins. But I saw that on something. I forget, some comedy show or something. But the deviled eggs and rolls and all that stuff, I just try to be grateful, even though the day is, kind of a creepy day in a lot of weird ways, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't really do Thanksgiving anymore, actually. In fact, I was, my partner said, "Oh, my family's coming over." And I said, "Oh, I'm getting a motel room." I mean, literally, I cannot deal with it. I don't like the food. I don't like the food at all. And I don't like the crowds. And my job, I work so hard at my job. It's like on my days off, because that's like a day off, right? I just don't want to be around people. I'm just too tired,
Yeah.
And everybody's sort of pretending, everybody just sort of pretended that they all like to be together, and I'm not convinced of that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Usually in my family, we just get the food and go to our own separate rooms. but the hermits. But as far as that alien investigation is pretty good. It's got old Nap in it, but it's serious. Like, there's some serious cases in it, and a lot of spooks for sure that are trying to release stuff, and him worried about that weird black site footage that he's going to get in trouble for sharing it, which I'm sure he already knew that he could share it or whatever, but he's basically got 8 episodes of that. That crazy show on Hulu, though, Out There, Crimes of the Paranormal, that is some weird stuff. Like, there's one episode on that goat man, Hope Lake monster, and about all the deaths there on the trestle and all that. Like, apparently a lot of kids go dodging trains. There's a whole episode on that. It's really creepy. But basically, there's a lot of FBI on that show talking about the cases, which is creepy, but it was pretty good. It surprised me. There's been one we've been watching called It's Florida Man. It's on HBO, and it's crazy, weird Florida stories where actors, live on the actors act. They bring in actors to reenact them or whatever. But those are those are crazy. There's one where a dude gets his arm bit off by an alligator because he just, I don't know. They have like the real person that it happened to, then the guy that plays him. Then there's one where a guy tries to burn. There's these two, a black guy and like a redneck gay couple that fight all the time, and one of them tries to blow up his house with marinara sauce somehow, and the police the police to get there, and he's dressed in a
with marinara.
Yeah, somehow he puts marinara on the stove and puts a towel in it so it'll run over when it heats, and he's like trying to blow up the trailer.
How bizarre. That's strange.
Like there's just crazy Florida man stories that are nuts. I can't remember the other ones, but it's funny. The actors in it are really funny because they're like playing these crazy people that are really crazy. Did you ever get around to the new Unsolved Mysteries?
I'm almost finished with the last season. Yeah. And they actually have a really interesting episode on cattle mutilations because they sort of, I mean, they talk about the history of it, but what's interesting is that they don't talk about Linda Moulton Howe. They don't talk about, you know, her whole sort of shtick with it. They try to really stay clear of any particular explanation for it and dwell a whole lot more on there's this history of it, but then this is still happening. And some of the more recent cases have been very strange, like some of the cases in Oregon. Talk about creepy. It's like some of the stuff in Oregon, it's like not only have the animals been mutilated in sort of the classic way, but they've been posed. And it's like, so you see the photos and you're like, whoa, what the hell is that? You know, I mean, I'm used to seeing some of the more gory pictures, you know, of mutilations, but a couple of those in Oregon are strange. I mean, there's just something at the back of your neck that just goes, oh my God, what is that? You know, who did that? Why? You know, what would that be?
That's interesting. There's one on that Knapp show, Alien Investigation, where he is getting into the cattle mutilations, and he actually interviews a rancher that it's happening to, and they have a picture of one that it was done to, and the way it's sitting up, like it's sitting up in a weird position, dead.
Yeah,
and
that's
something dropped it off. They think something dropped it off, picked it up and dropped it off. And that's what they said. That's what it looked like something grabbed it, took it, did it, and brought it back. And it's just like propped up, like it's sitting, like it's alive. Really creepy.
It is. Yeah. That show is creepy. I mean, the mutilation show is creepy because it does talk, like I said, about some more recent ones, so that, you know, it's not just this thing that used to happen.
Yeah. Well, I need to catch up on a lot of the Unsolved Mysteries, but I'm gonna check them out. I need to rewatch the first season probably, and then get into it all. I saw the first season, and I never watched any more after the new ones. But gosh, what is up with this Trump stuff? I made a joke on my status about Kid Rock and Scott Baio and all the idiots. Ted Nugent are going to get cabinet positions, and then soon My Pillow guy is going to be the Surgeon General. Like, he's just picking like a bunch of retards.
Oh, well, right. Well, and you know, I really doubt that the Senate is going to let him get away with that. I mean, it's most of the positions that he's nominating for, they have to be confirmed by the Senate. I mean, unless he tries to do that, you know, recess confirmation stuff. But I'm not convinced that all senators will permit that to happen.
Yeah.
And while the Republicans do have the Senate, they don't have it by much. They can only lose 4 votes. So it's like, it's not like a super mandate or anything, you know, it's just kind of crazy. It's almost like he's just like thumbing his nose at people.
Yeah. Didn't last time he just kind of like assign people and seemed like he was just trying to destroy everything from within with assigning morons to these like different sectors and stuff? Like, it just seemed like he was trying to screw up everything. That's what worries me. He's going to get in there and just like do that worse now. which I'm not even going to waste my time worrying about it. I try to think of like some of these stories where the shaman's like out in the woods and he doesn't know any of this political crap's happening at all, and he's just like in his own world or in the quantum world or whatever, and you
Right.
just
Well,
don't.
I'm not sure exactly. I think what happens with him sometimes is he has these ideas of things he wants to do, because this is how he was in business. He has these things. I mean, that's if people want to know what he's doing, all they have to do is just pay attention to how he's been in business. He just, what he does is he has these kind of general ideas of what he wants to do, and then he just like throws a bunch of shit at the wall to see what sticks. And then whatever sticks, he kind of goes with, and if something doesn't stick, he'll go on. He doesn't have a lot of loyalty in that way.
It's weird. I can't even believe, like, now they're all thinking that they're going to stop him somehow. Like on the right, that the deep state's going to stop him from being president. Something's going to happen that's going to stop it somehow. Something. And they're all paranoid that that's what's going to happen, which I don't think anything's going to happen to stop it. Do you? Probably not. Like, it's happening, whether we like it or not.
And it's interesting. I read an article in the Atlantic. Was it in the Atlantic? I think it was in the Atlantic. And it was talking about how, there was this event where the guy who wrote most of Project 2025 was sort of taking a victory lap. But one of the things that the reporter noticed in talking to all the various people that were there, that were like taking a victory lap with him, is that there were some really deep divisions in that group. There were white supremacists, and there were these crazy MAGA people, and then there were like some real religious, like there was like a religious component, but like some of the white supremacists really didn't like the religious component. I mean, it was like all these people were going yay, but the truth is that there's a lot of fractures in his so-called coalition, people that are trying to hang on to his coattails. And the fact is he doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself, about anybody but power and just having his stuff,
Yep. Definitely believe it. Definitely see it for sure. But yeah, that George Knapp show gets into the cattle mutilation thing, and then they go down to Brazil where that gets really weird. Like, I never even heard this case. It starts with a C, and it's just some weird thing that happened where the government was involved. The U.S. government was down there, and all these UFOs came out of the ocean, and people got attacked by some, and they actually went to some of the witnesses there and interviewed them, and it's some ladies with him that's I don't know, she's in the military or something, but they go to some of the witnesses and they still have the burn marks on them, what happened to them, and like the old scars, and they interviewed the people. And we're only on the second episode, but it's pretty good so far. It was a lot more detailed than most stuff, a lot more in-depth. Old Knapp has his own show, Alien Investigation, on Netflix, but I'll finish it. I'm always looking for good ones. They're hard to find, but that one seems pretty good so far. Like, it's getting into some stuff that I'm not familiar with, so that's always good. And let me look at the schedule. We saved the dog. We haven't got it yet, but it's one of those situations. Do we really need to because of room? But we had to because it was going to die Monday.
Oh, man.
Basically, it was at a shelter, really sweet dog, and Monday was it. No one got it. Bye-bye. You're gone. They were going to kill it. So we were trying to, it's a little further down in Florida, and there's like all these rescue people online that are always trying to save these dogs. So some of them were trying to help bring it to us, get it out, and then bring it closer to us so we didn't have to drive so far. And then one of them like fell through, and we're on the countdown. It's like waiting for death row. That's what it felt like. It was really weird, but not running on not much sleep. But finally, a lady went and broke it out, and Christina's going in the morning very early to go get it, and we saved it. But after this, it's like there's a cutoff. There can't be no more saving. That's what's sad. So many people are throwing out their dogs and stuff, and these shelters are so filled up. And they're so filled with animals that they're just like killing them, man. That's the only thing they can do. They're just throwing their animals out on the road. We had one that we found that this is a weird one that I had my dog Jack die, if you remember that I was close to. But this dog, Christina, was going down the road late at night, and it was just sitting in the middle of the road, a little Dachshund type dog, just sitting in a busy highway, licking its paw. And it turned out its paw had grown ingrown. You know how they'll grow into their claw because they haven't been trimmed. And we call him Pumpkin because he's orange and looks like a big fat pumpkin. But the weird thing about him is he has Jack mannerisms. His head looks just like Jack, who passed away. I'm not saying it is. I don't know. But there's weird similarities and coincidences of behaviorisms that this dog does that's just like Jack. That's just like him. I'm almost like, is it Jack? I mean, I've thought it with some other dogs, but this one takes the cake. Like, it just does a lot of stuff. His name's Chucky Pumpkin or Fat Jack. He looks like Fat Jack. But anyway, he will get under covers on he stays on the couch just like Jack, under a cover. He's under my poncho right now. And he'll try to take your seat when you get up and sit on it, just like Jack. Winks at you, just like Jack. Just a series of weird shit that's weird, just like Jack. And it's crazy. And part of you's like, well, maybe it's not, but why does he have the same head as Jack? If you put their pictures together, it's the same freaking head, but a fat body on this one. I'll try to pull him up. Come here, Chucky Pumpkin. And then you try to give him food or water, he'll run away and dart away from it. Like, hold on, I swear, if you find a picture of Jack, his head looks just like it came, the same snout, the same like weird white patchy stuff, and same ears, just a fat but it's weird. Is it Jack? I don't know, but he does some weird stuff. Just sitting in the middle of the highway. So we think someone threw him out of their car.
Yeah, well, shit like that happens. I tell you.
Has a sore on like an asphalt burn. And
ouch, 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 ouch.
But it's a good dog. He would have got ran over. But we're now at the point where no more. You can't only have so many, and then it gets too bad. You can only save so many. Unfortunately, you can't save them all. But it's sad. When I told my mom, because I had to okay it with my mom to get another one, and I started like crying when I told her, and I don't hardly ever cry. I was like, it's gonna die Monday. I started. But that won it over, though, at least, because no one ever sees me cry. So, but we'll see. She's going to get it in the morning, but they were basically just going to whack it in the morning. Let's see if I can get
whack it in the morning. Whack it.
Yep, not in the good way. It's a girl, so
right.
I'm trying to get a picture and I'll put it up. Let's see. Really cute dog. See if
and by the way, I meant to tell you, I've been reading this book, this Dark Man book. I've been reading this book. I like it. I like it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It doesn't creep me out at all. I'm like, yeah.
I have my Christian sensibilities that creep me out.
I guess I'm not. I guess I'm less Christian than you.
I like it. It's interesting, but it's well written, and he was a very good, interview, like really good. But it's what are you thinking of it? I mean, it's pretty much like the devil is the initiator into witchcraft, but it's not really the devil per se.
Well, yeah, it's basically it's talking about this presence. It's talking about this presence that some people have experienced, and I've experienced the presence he's talking about.
Me too.
Yeah, and my experience of it, it is creepy. It's scary because there's power there. And that's what's really scary about it. But that experience, the energy of that experience was fundamentally different than, say, the dark thing that I encountered during my that experience that I had when I tried to connect with Berdella. You know, I don't know if you, because I know that I've talked about this on here, but it's probably been a while. And that experience, the dark man that he's talking about, that energy is very different than what I experienced with Berdella. With Berdella, that was something else. That was not something we even want in this reality. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, whatever that was. But the dark man is something that's a part of our world. He's a part of our world. And so while that energy is unnerving, it has been when I've experienced it. It's, to me, it's not scary in the same way. I actually feel some comfort in it, because this is an energy that is of the earth. It is part of the earth, and it's not something that can be conquered by humans. You know, it's not something that can be harmed by the crap that we do here. And in fact, in the end, it's probably that which will take care of us and get rid of us if we get to a certain point. You know what I mean? So it's a kind of a protector. And so I experience the energy as a little bit more comforting in a weird way. I wouldn't sick it on anybody. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily obey you. But like if you're into the deep energy of Odin or anything like that, his energy is really similar, is really connected. There's also a Slavic deity named Veles, who is sort of an embodiment of some aspects of this. So to me, it's very interesting.
There's the dog. Harley. That's who was going to get whacked Monday. And now she's not. So it's good. It's crazy. She doesn't look that big. Her hand looks as big as her head. Like she's medium, I guess, medium size. But yeah, they basically put these dogs online and say that they're going to croak on that day if the adoption was free, and someone either comes and does it or they don't. Many times no one comes at all, and that's it, you know. Adios. But I guess they do an injection with that, probably. Yeah, I guess like an injection. That sucks, but it's a crazy world. But yeah, that Dark Man book's a trip for sure. That was a trip.
Oh, and if I don't know if Andy gave you a copy of this book. It's a book that he reprinted. It's the Dovid Enigma, because I'm preparing a blog thing on this book, because I think
I have
it's
a hardcover of that. That was not from Andy, actually. It's like, okay. I think it has that creature. Yep.
Some of the things in this book are creepy. I mean, this is like one of the best studies of a weird UFO flap situation. It's one of my favorite books, but there are some things in here that are creepy, especially some of the things that happen to animals. That's the interesting thing about this book. Not so much mutilations, but like there are these weird animal displacements, like in Skinwalker Ranch, you know, where like a whole bunch of sheep or cows will just disappear from a barn and then reappear like minutes later, like in broad daylight, minutes later in a
I had
field.
that happen at Skinwalker Ranch, something weird like that.
Yeah. It's real similar stuff like that.
You've told me about that book, and I think I actually bought it after you told me a long
Yeah,
time ago.
you
I
should
don't
read
remember,
it.
but
You
I don't
should read it.
remember. Like I mean, I just remember the picture, the details. I don't remember. But yeah, I'll have to check it out and dig it up and actually read it. But I found a hardcover of it. I don't think I paid that much for it. I doubt it, but yeah, I meant to read it. I have a lot of books like that. I'm going to catch up on at some point for sure. But yeah, that's a good one. I didn't even know Andy did that. He may have sent me it too, and I don't even realize it. He sent me a bunch of stuff. Like not too long ago, he sent me like 3 boxes just filled with. He's cleaning out his office, just filled. There's one box of it I'm still going through. Just a lot of. I know. So I had some of his books, and they got hit by mice. Wasn't a few titles got lost from some mice situations, so he sent them to me. It's freaking mice. But I'm trying to think. Let me see who I got. What's coming up on the schedule? Oh God. Christina's next week. That's Betty Page. Joe may be there. Jay will be there. It'll be one big circle jerk. Let's see. Mark Eddy will be there. So that should be interesting. And November 29th, Ronald Murphy. That's that book from Small Town Monsters. Wade Richardson. That's Psychedelic Use, book on from Inner Traditions. December 13th, when you come back, Victor Baines. There's a cool dude about Nostradamus. He runs an organization, Nostradamus USA. And we were talking about being stoners, and he told me about a UFO experience on the phone where there was telepathy and stuff. It just seemed like a cool dude. And then Kevin Heil. Okay, that's the one I want to tell you about. I'm glad I didn't remember it until I saw his name that I wanted to tell you about this. This is the Jim Willis connection through Visible Ink Press. Kevin, the newest book was Lost Treasures from Jim Willis before he passed. And this guy was the editor of it. The son and I guess the daughter kind of aren't going to be doing it. So this guy's coming on to talk about Jim Willis's life in that book. So he's the editor.
That's
so
cool.
we're gonna talk about the dead dude's life. That story's
awesome.
gonna be, yeah. And then you're doing 2 in December, and then the vacation kicks in, and then we come back January 10th with Jay, and then you come back on 30th. You saw it all, but I'm looking forward to a break. I need a recharge.
Yeah, I'm just working too much. I'm just working, and I don't know what to do about it because I need the job. Although I don't have debt like I did. All my debt is gone now. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah, it's all gone.
What this just came to my brain. Anything developments on the Paracast thing?
I'm scheduled to be on it. I'm scheduled to be on it the night before Thanksgiving, the 27th.
Cool. Well, that's good. Did they say anything else about what they want to talk about or anything?
Other than making arrangements for the Skype, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah,
I did tell them, I told them my preferences about what I want to, the way I like to do stuff. And we'll see what they do.
Yeah, and that'll be a good one for sure. Thanksgiving night. And I got a show a few days after Thanksgiving when I'll be big and fatter. So what do you normally do on Thanksgiving? Nothing?
I don't know what I'm going to do on this Thanksgiving, actually. I mean, I got told today that like a huge crowd is going to descend here, which pissed me off since I wasn't asked about that. And it's my house too.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to see what I think about it. Maybe I'll just get drunk. I don't know.
What's happening? A Thanksgiving shindig?
Well, yeah, I mean, just like too much family and stuff. And see, I've been really working on my health. And I know nobody can tell based on this, but like since August, I've lost like 22 pounds, and I'm really trying to eat well and exercise, and because I just want to feel better. And
Yeah.
and having to deal with all that food and all those people and all that stress, it just doesn't, it does not sound fun to me. I'm not much of a family person anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what are you doing to change everything? That's good. I need to do more.
Um, I've just been doing it the way you do it. I've just been keeping track of how much I eat, the calories, how much I eat, and how much I exercise. It's very boring. It's not rocket science. I had to change some of the things that I ate. Um, um,
What did you miss?
well, I've had to give up most of my, I've had to give up a lot of carbs, and I've had to give up fried food.
Yeah.
I mean, I can have a little bit here and there, of stuff. And, it doesn't matter. You see these people advertising, oh, you don't have to give up any foods, it's like, all of that is hype. It's bullshit. If you're going to really lose weight, especially if you're older, like I am, postmenopausal, if you're going to lose any weight, you're going to have to give some stuff up, and you're going to be hungry sometimes. You're not going to be starving. Okay. But you are going to have to, um, learn how to eat less and change your relationship to food. Now, I've done this before. When I got out of graduate school over 20 years ago, I was really overweight, actually, but bigger than I got this last time. And I did Weight Watchers, which kind of uses the same set of principles, and lost all that weight in like 18 months and kept it off for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So this is like a postmenopausal pandemic issue. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And what have you been eating more of? What kind of food? Salads?
Well, more vegetables. I do eat a lot of protein though. I eat a lot of chicken and fish, and I like tofu, so I don't mind that. I've cut out a lot of cheese from my diet. Although I do eat some, and I eat yogurt. I do eat fruit, certain fruits anyway. Whole grains, but I limit with how much of that.
Yeah. I've had to be careful with soda. I don't drink that much of it, but one a day is even too much. So just lead you to the road of kidney stones. What do you normally drink? Water, or what do you prefer?
Water, coffee, and tea. I'm not a soda drinker. I haven't been as an adult. I haven't. I don't even remember the last time I've had a soda.
It's terrible. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
I mean, it's probably been 30 years. Because I grew out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I will drink seltzer water because I do like bubbles, but I don't like pop or soda, whatever. I grew up calling it pop, and here they call it soda. So,
I don't drink that often, but when eggnog comes around, there's this Evan Williams eggnog that has like brandy and rum, and they sell it at the liquor store. I've already had some of that, and I also had some Jaeger bombs recently. My mom gave me, but I don't really like. I mean, I'll do it sometimes, but I don't really like it that much. I mean, it's good at first, but I just don't. I'm not a big drinker. I've gone through stages in my past when I can remember throwing up Jaeger outside bars, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was never anything so bad that you're going to die or anything, but I just don't like it that much. Sometimes once on a blue moon, but not all the time. I prefer weed, but the Jaeger bomb is actually good because it's with Red Bull, and you don't even hardly, you taste the Jaeger, but not like doing a shot of it. Subtle. But that eggnog will get me in trouble. I gotta be careful with that. They bottle that up now and mix all kinds of stuff with it. It's good. It's really good. But that's where it has rum, brandy, and whiskey, like in eggnog in a bottle. Like 3 different kinds, and it tastes good. Like that's my biggest thing. A lot of time that liquor tastes like crap. But I'll do the eggnog some, but certainly not every day, just once in a while. We got the big old beaver moon tonight.
Oh, it was
Friday night.
amazing. It was amazing. An
It's
amazing
huge.
moon. It's huge. It's lovely. It's like right outside my window, lighting everything up.
So what's up with the beaver moon? What's it mean? It means like
Well,
dams.
I'm not
Super-
sure. I'm not sure exactly, but it doesn't mean beaver in the normal sense. I mean, I guess it's the animal, not the,
It's the coochie.
it's not the coochie. It's not the coochie.
Yeah, beaver time. But yeah, I saw it too. It looks bigger, like huge. You can feel it. You can feel like my head's like a fishbowl head. But yeah, so what do you think about George Knapp? Will you watch stuff that he does? You think you'll check out Alien Investigation?
I might. Is it on Hulu?
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I might.
Yeah.
I like George Knapp to a point. I think he does. He's got a great voice for narration.
Yeah.
And he's a good reporter. He's a little bit too right wing for me to listen to some of his stuff. At least some of the people he hangs around with. So I have to kind of take him with a grain of salt. But he makes things interesting. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Seems better than a lot of them, at least. Give him that for sure. That's about all I can give him that, because a lot of those other personalities are he's a good speaker, but definitely get some unique stuff that you don't see in other places and stuff. They also had the dude on that wrote the Skinwalker Ranch book with him, the Calm Kelliger or whatever he was. He was on there too. But there's some weird things. One reason you should watch it, he really has some spooks on there. Like he visits spooks' houses. Spooks are trying to get him stuff. Like crazy, like military government crazy people that are just crazy, like big time characters on there that you normally would not see on anything else. I've never seen anything. It's definitely bleeding into that weirdness with Skinwalker Ranch. The spook levels at the all-time high on there. But yeah, it's worth watching for sure. And trying to think, God. Oh, watch the Penguin show on HBO. That was really good. Colin Farrell playing Penguin. Ended sad. Kind of a sad, murderous situation that was unexpected. I don't want to give it away, but it was definitely good. I'm looking forward to there's going to be a Joker situation eventually from that Batman universe, and the new movies are all by the guy that did the new Planet of the Apes, Matt Reeves, and he did a really good job with those newer Planet of the Apes with Woody Harrelson and all that. But there was a Batman movie with Robert Pattinson's Batman, and he actually did a good job. But Paul Dano plays the Riddler in it, and he's just insane.
Oh, really?
And then there's a guy that plays Joker in it briefly, like he's in the prison, and he's talking to the Riddler after the Riddler gets caught, and you can barely see his face. And there's a deleted scene where you can see his face more, but he's going to be the next big Joker, and I think it's going to actually be pretty good. I'm trying to find the guy's name that plays him. It's an actor that's in a lot of stuff. Barry Keoghan. Barry Barry Keoghan plays it's going to be playing the Joker. But and he seems and the Joker looks really creepy, like a lot of crazy like malformations and stuff. Like his face just looks like a train wreck compared to the other ones. But did I tell you much about that? We don't have much longer, like 7 minutes or something. But did we talk about that newest Joker with Lady Gaga and all that stuff?
We haven't talked about it. No. I mean, what I've heard is that she's probably the best part of it. That's what I've heard.
It was terrible. The first one was decent. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the greatest thing ever, but it was decent. The second one is just, oh my God, this needs to get over with. I can't do this. It's a musical. I'm trying to like this, but the biggest thing about it is the ending. And spoiler alert, I think we may have mentioned this briefly, or I did with someone, but you're not going to watch it, are you?
No.
Okay,
No.
so I'll say what happens, and if you haven't seen it yet and you're going to cry, don't listen because I'm going to tell the end.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
spoiler alert. Basically, Joaquin Phoenix is a Joker-like character that paints himself up and seems kind of Jokerish, but at one point he sees Bruce Wayne as a child at the main manor estate of the Bruce Wayne, the Wayne family. He sees Bruce Wayne as a child, and that's the only time any kind of Batman even happens in it. And you can actually tell that there's such an age difference. It's weird because the Joker, well, Joaquin Phoenix is a lot older than this little kid that's supposed to be Batman later. But anyway, it turns out that he hooks up with Lady Gaga and all that stuff, and they're lovers, but it's really weird because you don't know what's really happening a lot of times because he gets into weird, like imagination, fictitious, like has things happen that may not be real. So you're trying to figure out what's real and not. Like he's in the hole, and then suddenly Lady Gaga appears and she's screwing him. And you're like, well, he's in the hole. Is she really there? Or because he imagines stuff, but he was really having some kind of relationship with her. But anyway, the ending, this guy just walks up to him and they don't really show his face, but he starts talking to him and he tells some jokes and stabs him and kills him. He dies. And then the guy sits down and carves up his own face and it ends.
Oh, that's stupid.
And supposedly that's the Joker, like I guess the real Joker. And this Joaquin Phoenix Joker is just like an imitation or something. That's how the whole thing ended. And Joaquin Phoenix is dead. Like the character is dead. So I didn't really like it. The first one was iffy. I mean, it wasn't. I'm a big Tim Burton, that Jack Nicholson one, and the Danny DeVito with the penguin. I love those. Those are the greatest things ever. I like the Heath Ledger ones. Those are good. That one by Jared Leto, I hate that one. That's like a gangster hip hop Joker. I hate it. A lot of people hated that from Suicide Squad. It was terrible. And Jared Leto is a decent actor. It's just kind of sad that he was like this. He ruined Joker. But I like the Heath Ledger one. That one was creepy just because Heath Ledger went crazy making them and like died.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah. Well, and Heath Ledger was so good.
That one was good.
He was so good. He was so good.
I like those Christopher Nolan ones. There's 3. I like them. But the Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, that's my favorite for sure. Like I saw that and I dressed up as that Joker for senior dress up day. And still can do never rub another man's rhubarb. But anywho, they just came out with a book that I haven't read, but I'm going to get it at some point. It's a sequel to the Tim Burton Batman movie with Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and it's a real sequel. Like it's just a book, but it's the sequel to it. It's called Batman Resurrection by John Jackson Miller. Just came out in October. It says after the Joker's death, Batman and Gotham City face a mysterious new threat. In direct sequel to Tim Burton's Batman, the Joker is dead but not forgotten. And then there's some the Joker's gangs at large still. There's some weird Joker stuff where you wonder if the Joker may not be dead, but I haven't read it yet. But you can just tell that from the description. But it's doing very well on Amazon. It has 97 ratings and like 5 stars almost. So I'm definitely going to check that out. It's a direct novelization of a sequel to that one. And then, of course, the Batman Returns with Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito. That was good, too. I like those. I hope Tim Burton does a third one year, which probably won't ever happen, but maybe. Saw Beetlejuice, too. It was actually decent. It wasn't that bad. It's kind of weird because that pedo dude wasn't in it. The dad, Jeffrey Jones. Do you know that story with that guy?
No, I don't.
Jeffrey
No idea.
Jones is an actor that's been around in a lot of movies. He's kind of redheaded and wears glasses and kind of chubby and always looks sweaty and greasy. But somehow he got caught doing pedo stuff, and he's not in movies anymore. His name's Jeffrey Jones. You probably recognize him if you see him. But he's dead in Beetlejuice 2. He was the dad. So there's a picture of him on a tombstone, and then there's some weird stuff where he comes back in the movie, but it's not him, and he's mangled from a shark killing him, and the shark, like he's all mangled in purgatory from a shark bite. That's horrible, but it's not really that actor. It's someone just playing the dad that was that actor. But he got caught with crazy pedo stuff and left Hollywood. Somehow I thought Pee Wee Herman was involved. That something about Pee Wee Herman got some picture that may have been inappropriate with children, and Pee Wee Herman turned himself into the police for it, but I don't think anything happened to him. But somehow that had something to do with that Jeffrey Jones dude and some big to-do. And that Jeffrey Jones got not ostracized, but he can't make movies anymore because he's a freakazoid. But yeah, Jeffrey Jones, he was in Ferris Bueller. He's the teacher. Been in a bunch of stuff, but he ain't in nothing no more because he's a freako with kids. But anywho, Beetlejuice 2 was decent. It was surprisingly not that bad. But anyway, everybody, you're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Everybody have a good one, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Wham. And I'm tired. We've been trying to save a dog life. I need to go night-night and have a hamburger.
You go get some food.
Yeah, for sure.
Some food.
That was a good one. You can't go wrong with Vlad the Impaler. That's always a good one.
Right, exactly. So have a good holiday. Talk to y'all later.
All right, you too. Take care. Good night.
Bye.
All right, good night, everybody. See little Mark Eddy out there. He's going to be there for the Betty Page show, and he's going to bring the fixings and the trimmings and the pumpkin pie. But anyway, we'll see you next. For Joe may be stopping by for that one. For Christina Giordano, she'll be the guest for the Betty Page show coming up. Dark Angel, Joe is supposed to show up. We'll see if he's able to. And Mark Eddy will be there. Jay will be there. It's going to be a schwindig next Friday. Good night, everybody.